Heck yeah. So, hope you guys like that quote. What's up, ToadSlayer72 here. Thanks for joining me. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing things like that. Directional changes, angles, boat position, and just the overall philosophy of putting some thought into what you're doing. What looks like an ordinary cast of the shoreline here is anything but. And I'm going to illustrate and break down why I think I was successful in this instance here. So, strap in and here we go, guys. Thank you. Alright guys, so here's a little illustration I slapped together real quick just to try to give you a better idea what was going on in this particular situation. I really want to put an emphasis here on angles, directional changes, and just the whole thought process that goes into as many casts as you can put it into. Obviously you're not always going to have these prime looking areas and these perfect textbook situations, but as much as you can, I think you need to be on not only on the lookout for those types of scenarios, but even when you find what looks to be like a prime location, thinking about the angles and what's the best possible cast for that prime looking location. And when you don't have these prime spots, I think you need to, or it's helpful to strive to try to make the most of wherever you are. I mean, you need to be on the lookout for as many prime spots as you can, but obviously some places are better than others and at different times and all that, all these different variables come into play. But regardless, I think to have the right mental approach, to keep your head in it as much as you can, and to just feel confident that what your bait is doing and what you're making your bait do is going to increase your chances, or be the right thing to turn that fish's attention to a commitment. And obviously most of the time, or you're dealing with a lot of quote unquote failure with this big bait fishing and swim bait fishing, but just the whole mental approach is huge. I think breaking down as many things as you can, visualizing as much as you can, expecting success as much as you can, I think that all helps, because you have a lot of failure to deal with, and there's a lot of downtime, a lot of time nothing's happening. So even if you're just visualizing to keep your head in the game, visualizing what your bait is doing, imagining it coming into a scenario that's going to get a strike, and putting directional changes into it, at the right times, or what you feel to be the right times. I think all that stuff is very, very helpful, as much as you can, and that's the emphasis I want to put on this. That's why I'm breaking all this down. I just don't want to show me catching a fish. I mean, this will be the first video I have of me catching a fish. I've caught plenty of fish, and there's a reason for this in particular, because it's the best example I have of this to date on video, of the thought process that goes behind this and the execution of it. So what we have here, this is a small section of a larger area that I fish. It's always been good to me. It's got a lot of things going for it, and just a lot of textbook key type of features. So this is a smaller section of a larger area that I always do well in, but particularly in the springtime. And I've studied this place from the waters down completely when it's high and dry, satellite imaging, trying to break down what makes this a good spot, and trying to find other places like that within this lake. But I think one of the key things here in this whole general vicinity is the bottom content. But aside from that, what we have here is the main shoreline here, and you have a shallow flat here. This comes up, it's gradual. I mean, it's not an extreme change, depth change. I'd say I'm terming this like a trough here. I'm going to say the deepest point of this, actually, it actually changes depth coming from here, going towards the main basin too. It gets a little deeper as you go this way, but I'm going to say 7-8 feet max. Where I was fishing, probably 6 to 7 feet deep max. And, it comes uphill here into the shallow flat. But the key thing here is this rock wall that comes right through this and goes up onto the shoreline. And this continues in the other direction into some other prime type of area. But right here, what I wanted to do was create what I consider to be the best angle in this situation, to set my boat up to help facilitate these angles. Now, in this instance, my thinking, I try to, work uphill as much as I can, and now you could make a case to say, well, being here on shore is working uphill too, and you'd be right. But I think this uphill up onto this flat is better than this, because it's a shorter distance between the deepest part of this trough and the shoreline here, which is, it's nice because it's steeper. But what we have here coming in here is a more of a gradual uphill, and we have some other features on this that make this side better to me, in my opinion. So I wanted to set up here. I set my boat up here on top of the rock wall. Now, the rock wall is submerged even through here on the flat, but there's not a lot of room between the bottom of my boat and the top of this wall here. It's pretty skinny water at that point, particularly on this side on the flat. So the best thing on here to me is right in this area. Now, the wall blows out a little bit, and you have some scattered rock throughout, coming away from the wall, right at the deepest point here. And it also converges where we start to come uphill. So for my idea here was to park here, and I'd get that angle, and the same thing on the opposite side coming into this brush pile. But this brush pile here is at this point, it was in a slightly shallower water. The water fluctuates. When the water's a little bit higher, that brush pile comes into play a little bit more. But still, the angle here would have been the same angle, and maybe take a couple across and some direct parallels, or maybe even on top of the rock wall right through here. But what I wanted to do here is bring this into this convergence area, and even more so, I wanted to give some directional changes here too. And the normal path where my boat position was, there's a slight little arc to this where it changes it does its main change right here, and it's subtle, but it gets to a point where I was holding my rod, where I planned on bringing my rod more parallel and just paralleling this wall once I got here. But I wanted that change to happen within this vicinity here. And also, what you have as far as subtle directional change, you have the lure swinging from, the deeper water working its way upward. And what I took a little step further right here is I wanted the bait to come up. I let it touch the surface real quick and let it fall back down. Now, again, this is in real shallow water, and all this is subtle. And, I'm using the ROF 5, so all of its, descending is pretty subtle too. But you can do a lot with these slow sinking baits with just a little bit of rod angle change. And the speeding up and the slowing down of the reel, again, all subtle things. But I want all that subtlety to happen right within this vicinity here. So we've got that change going this way. We got it coming up. And when I let it touch the surface, I let it come back down a little bit. I lowered my rod angle. And shortly after that, this fish comes just launched out of here. And it closes in on the bait fast and just smashes it. And it was a really cool thing. It all came together the way I had imagined and wanted it to. It's the first cast of the day. I missed another fish on this side of the rock wall. It was hanging out off the rock wall a little further over here. But and it's actually slightly shallower. I saw it after I released the fish over here, the 7-pounder I got here. And in fact, at first I thought it was a fish I just let go. But I took a cast over here and I started following the bait, but it broke off. Next cast, after I waited a little bit, next cast it hit, but I missed. But I didn't really do much. I wasn't thinking as much as I was on this cast as far as my directional. I just did a regular cast and retrieve, and that might have made the difference in the fish really coming after that, because this fish on this side just smoked it. It came in hard and just smoked it. This fish, followed it a little bit half-assed, and on the next cast it just bumped it, and it wasn't the same type of behavior. Obviously it doesn't have to be, but I wasn't thinking as much. I was still excited and gassed off of catching this fish over here. So by the time I, was just excited at the fact that it wasn't the same fish, because this was following my bait the first time, I didn't put as much thought into it. I just gunned it back out there and brought it in kind of mechanically, just threw it out there and brought it right back in, and that could have been the difference. And the emphasis of this is all of that, the directional changes, the angles. I put a lot of thought into, as much as I can, into maximizing my positions. I'm anchoring up quite a bit, and I'm trying to get as many good angles as I can. And when you're bringing your bait into a spot that you expect to get bit or you think you should get bit, you know, putting these manual directional changes, whether it's, you know, raising your rod tip and speeding up a little bit, or changing the angle of your rod tip, you know, that's where these subtle little directional changes, I think, really come into play. And two resources I want to shout out hugely. First of all, it's Bill Siementel's book. He really goes into great detail on that. It's been a huge influence on my thinking overall towards this big bait fishing and the mental shift that I've had. I think is necessary. And Southern Trout Eaters. Big shout out to Matt Peters, man. That dude is just, he's on point, and I like how he gets into, particularly with the Huddleston, talking about how it's a technical bait. Even though you see this thing coming through the water, it's not doing much, but it's a real subtle technical bait. And those subtleties come in from slight little movements, especially with that ROF5, man. You know, slight little adjustments to rod tip, things like that. You can make that do a lot. So if you're new to this or just getting into it or not having a lot of success and you haven't looked into either of those, either the Southern Trout Eaters DVD or Bill Siementel's book, it's highly recommended. And also, obviously, Bill Murphy's book is great too. That's just about big bass behavior in general. But the other two are more, you know, contemporary as far as discussing swim baits in particular and big bait fishing as we know it now. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you guys. It's been helpful to me to try to think like this as much as possible in as many situations as possible. Like I said, anytime you can keep your head in the right place and feel like you're doing the right thing, even if you don't hook up or have success, I think it's just helpful to get you through those lean times, and it develops good habits, I think. So thanks for watching, and take care.
Right. This is prime. Everything is prime right now. I don't know if I can ask for a better day as far as conditions look. Everything's prime.
Yeah, we get a lot of those in the springtime. These ideal situations. Let's see what I'm saying in the middle of the summer. So there you see the Huddleston 8-inch ROF5 throwing towards that trough area there, letting it sink down, get my net ready, because I have high expectations here, I really do. I mean, this is the first cast of this day, and you know, all the mental stuff that goes into it, you know, you just have to have confidence, and I'm totally prepared at this point. So pay attention to my rod angles here. This is what I was talking about. I'm holding it up a little bit higher than I normally would, and retrieving it a little faster than I normally would, because I'm trying to make it do something specific. See, I bring it even higher because I want it to touch the surface here. And shortly after that, I get to this convergence area. I drop my rod down, and watch when I look away, it's because I see this fish coming in just hot, you know. I keep watching my rod right here. There's the hit, and then I'm all set. And make quick work of it after that. So this feels awesome, obviously, when you're successful, and but even more so when you feel like you made that happen. You know, it feels better when you, on purpose, you know, you made that happen. You know, for the most part of my fishing life, before I started doing this big bait fishing, most of the big fish I caught, I got some good ones, trust me. And not to take anything away from myself, but I always felt more so that I kind of lucked into a lot of them. You know, and all these fish now with these big baits, it's just a different mindset. I feel like I'm making this stuff happen now, and it just feels good, you know. So, and to anybody that's not having a lot of success, or you guys that are just starting out, all I can tell you, man, is to just keep the grind going. It is a grind, you know. I went 2 full seasons throwing that HUD like religiously, faithfully, without even seeing anything, not even getting a sniff. I caught 2 tiny smallmouths on that 8-inch HUD, first 2 seasons throwing it. So just keep the grind going. It's the same old story with that, and that's that. So I hope this is helpful to someone, anyone. Let me show you the fish here. 7 pounds on the nose. This is a New York fish. This is a quality fish in my neck of the woods. Anybody from up this way would know that. So state record's only 11.4. I got a bigger one later on that day, actually. It was a good day. But Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.
Unreal. That fish straight smoked it. My goodness. My goodness. I am shaking right now.